Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Veronica Adeyemi and I'm a product designer. I created this YouTube channel so that I can share my experiences around design, share what I'm learning, share my career and lifestyle as a whole. And in today's video, we'll be working on input field. If you missed the part one of this video, I would like you to go back to it and watch that. In the first video, I spoke about best practices when you're designing input field. So in this video, we're going right into Figma to learn how to design all these input field here. So stick to the end of this video to learn more about designing input field. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome back. So we are in Figma now, and if you watch the part one of this video, you remember this pictures I'm showing you currently. So we're going to be designing all this, and we're going to start with designing input field different states. Then we'll move into the different types, and then we'll move into designing these different styles. So let's get to business now. We're starting with designing input field states and we'll start with designing inactive states. So we're going to start. Okay, currently this field doesn't have leading icons and trailing icons like I mentioned in our presentation, but we're going to be using that in this video, in this input field. So let's start with writing our texts. Right? So since I'm designing for inactive state, I'm going to reduce the the opacity of this text by just adjusting the color. Then then since we want to use trailing icons and leading icons, I'm going to bring in the icons that we currently have. So I'm going to select both of these together and add auto layout around it. Then I'm going to adjust the spacing. Let's use it. Okay. Then I'm going to select. So this is the trailing icon. This is the leading icon. That means it's at the front, it's leading. And this is the trailing icon at the end. Yeah, so I'm going to select the trailing icon and this other one together and add auto layout around it also. Then now that this is selected together, I'm going to frame it all together and add another auto layout. So I'm going to add fill now. So you see the paddings I'm going to be adding around it. And we use okay, so no need to add fill now. I'm just going to add stroke. We don't need our fill currently. I'm going to add stroke around it here. And so I'm going to be adding our paddings around it. So you see how it spaces out. Padding and padding. Right. So now I want to adjust the color of this stroke. Then I want to add radius round. Good. Now I want to extend this width size to 343 and I'm just using 343 because if I'm designing for a mobile, this is the width size I'm going to use. So you see currently that this arrow is not at the edge and we want to bring it to the edge. So what we're going to do first is to select this section and use fill container. And it's staying exactly like this because we already set a padding around it 1616. So when I select option on my keyboard, I get to see my padding. So next up, I'm going to use space between. That's what makes this icon come to the end. So what I want us to also do is that if you select this icon and you hide it, you will see that our text is moving to the center. We do not want that. So I'm going to select this text here and also use fill container. That way, when we hide this icon, it stays where it is. Awesome. So next up, we want to have our text here, this email address here. And I'm just going to write email address, adjust the size and the width, then also adjust the color. So I'm going to select both of them together and add auto layout, then adjust the spacing to 8. The next thing I want to add on this icon is to add our validation text. During my presentation, I mentioned that some of these things were optional and they were to be used when you needed them. So I'm going to put this here, then put a frame around it, and then add auto layout. Then I'm going to add a padding around it to be 16. Then I'll select both of them together and add another auto layout. Okay, I'm going to remove the padding right now because we do not need it on this. It can start from the beginning. Yeah, so currently we have our inactive states. This is it here. So what I want us to do now is to create these other different states. And to go about that, I'm going to change this into a component first. Then I'm going to add a variant. Then I want to rename this whole component set, this property one, and rename it state. I'm naming it state because we are also going to have different properties in this component that we've created. But right now we have states. Okay, I think I should just add the other properties that we'll be creating. So I want to create trailing icon, leading icon. I want to bring this up. Then the last one will be validation text. Yeah, so these are like different states that we are, the different properties that we'll be having. And under leading icon, okay, when we get there, we'll do it. So let me add make this, let me give this proper spacing. Right. So the next our next state is to create the over state. And the over state just shows that, let's say I'm using a desktop and my mouse hovers over that component. I want it to highlight a bit. So the only thing we're going to do here is to change the color of our stroke. Yes, that's all we need. Yeah. So what I want to do now is to name our variant properly. And this state is currently inactive, and our leading icon is on yes. Yes means it's showing, trailing icon, yes. All this is important so that when you now want to use the variant on your designs, you can like set it properly. I'm going to like show you that in later. So yeah, then this one currently our state is over. The leading icon, yes, is showing. Trailing icon, yes, is showing. Validation text, yes, is showing. So next up, we want to do an error state. So error state, we're just going to be changing this color to red. We don't have red here, so I'm just going to be changing this color to red and changing this validation text to red also. Then I'll just change this text to error text. Then the other thing to note is that we need to like just make these details look like the user has filled this. Yeah. Because there cannot be an error state on something that is not filled. Next, we will be creating active state here. An active state is the state that shows that the user is currently probably typing something in on that component. So we're just going to highlight this stroke and use the brand color. So I'm using blue because this is the brand color. If the brand color was green, I will be using green for this stroke. So I'm going to increase the stroke a bit so it shows well. And next up, I'm going to make this more visible so it shows that the user is typing. So what I want to do next is to give it that look like I'm currently typing. So I'm going to draw a line and make the width 20, change the color to our brand color, and then put it in here. But before I can't just put it in here because it won't stay properly. It's not staying where I want it to stay. Right. So I'm going to first select this text and sorry, I need to say first select this text and frame it selection, then add auto layout. Then I'm going to put in that rectangle I drew, the line I drew. Then I want to adjust the space between it so it's a bit closer and it really shows that the user is typing. Right. So the next one I want to do is our field state, and field state is just that the user has filled that. So I'm going to change the color of the stroke and reduce it back. Then we really do not need this anymore. So what I can do, okay, let me just go straight to the point instead of editing this. What I can do is just select this and copy. Then the only thing I need to change is to make this active. So I done with field state. So the last state is disabled state, and it's just to make this background field. So while doing disabled state, and disabled state means that the user cannot edit that input text. So I'm going to change the color first and then change the background. Add a fill, then put a background. Yeah, so we're now done with the different states, and I want us to name it properly because we didn't pay attention to that earlier. This is an over, then we change this to error. Change this to active or typing. Let's use typing. Then change this to field state and disabled states. And we have all this properly laid. So we have this done already. And what I would like to show you next is creating different variants of this component that has been created. And by variant, I mean creating different variants. I'm going to be removing the leading icon, the trailing icons, and the validation text. Then I'll be renaming the variant properly. So what I'm going to be doing now is to remove, I want to remove all the validation text on this section. So you might decide to do this or you might decide not to do this, but having this down just makes your design really faster. So I'm going to change this validation text to no, meaning that it doesn't exist on this variant. So next up, I want to copy this and remove the leading icons. So this is how an extensive design system is created. All right, so I'm going to select all this together again. I can actually edit it one by one, but to make it faster. So we just remove the leading icon. So I'm going to change it to no, meaning it doesn't exist. So next up, I want to select all this and remove our trailing icon. Yeah, so we have that removed. Okay, I mean this. So I'm going to select everything together and edit the trailing icon to no, meaning it doesn't exist. Now we have our input field states in different variants, and this is important to do, like I said earlier, because when you now begin to use it in your design in different places, it just makes your work faster and you don't have to like start recreating components again when you have all this down already. So next up, I'd like to show you how to create these different types. So we already know how to create this type as the text input field. We already know how to create this password, but I'd like to show you how to like create this kind of password and how to prototype it. So let me just copy this, or let me copy this. So it's also important that whatever icon you use here is made of a component so I can easily edit it. For example, if the way I selected this icon here now, once I select it, all the other icons that are my system are my Figma file that are component, I'm going to see them here so I can easily change. So let's imagine this is password and I have my password typed here. I can create a component around this and create another variant and then edit this I to close and then change this to yeah. Meaning that when I prototype it, I want it to be like when a user selects this I, it changes to this. And when the user selects this I, changes to this. So I'm going to put this on the proper design and then show it to you and you see how it looks like. So that's how to create password type. Next up, let's create our phone number type and I'm just going to do this from the start. So I'm going to first create a frame and yeah, let me bring in our Nigerian flag. Since I've already used it here, permit me to just copy that. Right. So I'm going to just paste the Nigerian flag inside now. Done. So I created a frame first and then I pasted my Nigerian flag inside. Next up, I'll be bringing in my drop down icon, and this drop down icon is just to show me when a user selects that drop down icon, it brings out the list of countries there. So like I said in my presentation, you can either decide to use the country's flag or the country's number code. For example, in Nigeria, we're using +234. So I can either decide to just use +234. So I'll be showing you how to do these two, both of them together. So next up, we want to bring in our icon. So, so since I'm using it here, okay, let me just duplicate. So I'm going to select both of them together and add auto layout around it and also adjust the the spacing. Amazing. I'm going to frame both of them together, frame selection and add auto layout around it. And I'm going to add add-ins around it. Next up, I'm going to add stroke around it. But now I want the stroke to only be at this edge so I can get this line filling. So I'm going to select my stroke here and do right. So I have it only at this side. Next up, I want to select everything together and do another frame around it. So I can put another auto layout around it. But I'm not going to put paddings around this now. I'm just going to extend it this way and put stroke around it. Then I'm going to add radius, corner radius, and change the color now. So I want to extend the width to 343. Now we have this. So the next thing that is just left for us to do is just to put our label text, and that would be phone number. So adjust the color, select both of them together, add auto layout, and adjust the spacing. We have our phone number ready. Next up is to do this date, and the only thing you need for this date is just to edit the icon. So you can create this +234. You can just use it to replace this. So for our dates, we already have that. You can just use this password and change the icon to calendar. Okay, I don't have calendar here. Like I said, whenever you have an icon here, if I select this icon, you will see that there's no way I can change it because the icon is currently not a component. So always remember to make your icons component so you can easily edit. So to create selection is just editing the icon to have that drop down. Then now to create search is we I'm not sure we have search icon. So I'm not going to bring in search icon from Feather Icons plugin. Change the column, type in search, change the column, select both of them together and add, let's frame it first, frame selection, add auto layout, adjust the spacing, frame all this together again, add auto layout, add our padding round, extend the width to 343, add our stroke around it, adjust the color, then adjust the radius. Our stroke component is ready. So you can also create different variant of this search, meaning that when a user selects, we want it to show active states like a user is typing. So exactly what we did here, you can just like bring it in also. The way we designed it here, you can also implement it Yeah, typing. And you just make this stroke to show that the user is currently typing on it. Yeah. So that was how to design for search. So the last one is description. And description is just like our normal text that we did, just that you just have to extend this box. And if you watched the first presentation I did on this, and I explained why this description is needed. So now that we're done with designing the different input types, let's move into designing these different styles. Then I'm going to work on a prototype and present that to you. Yeah. So we're going to start off with this bottom line with fill. And what we need to do first is to write our label, full name, adjust the width, adjust the color, and adjust the size. So I'm using 14. So next up is to write our input field. So I'm currently designing for the field state because if I want to do for the different states, that's going to like consume a lot of time. And I just want to quickly show you how to design for these different styles. So I'm adjusting the color. I'm using a different size from this. For the label, I use 14. For the input, I'm using 16 just to show that construct. So I'm going to select both of them together and add auto layout and also adjust the spacing by using 8. So next up, I'm going to frame both of them together, add another auto layout and add our paddings around it. So I'm going to add our background color now so you see how it looks. Few. Then I want to extend this to 343 and add our radius. So I don't want the radius to go everywhere because let me add radius everywhere, then I'll show you why I don't want it to go everywhere. I've added radius everywhere. If you look into it, you see how the radius is here. By the time we now add our stroke and give it bottom, you will see that it's not really staying, and that's not the concept we want. So I'm going to edit our radius, this the bottom radius to 0, 0. So now it gives it that line of how we want it. So I'm also going to adjust the color now, and that's how we have it. So even if you want to add icon to this side, if you remember the first designs I did here on adding icon, you will just before you put this in a frame, make sure that you bring in your icon, select both of them together, add auto layout, then frame the selection, add another auto layout, add your fill, then add your padding around it. Then I'm going to, in case when I extend this to whatever width I want, I'm going to select this and use fill container, then also use space between so it stays here. Then also always remember to use fill container on this end. So even if when we close out this icon, it stays by the edge. So yeah, that's how we create bottom line with fill. And the next one, okay, let me just skip to bottom line with no fill is exactly the same way we create bottom line with fill. But without fill means that we're going to just remove the fill that we did here. That's all. Bottom line with no fill. So next up, let's move to adaptive label. And in my presentation, I mentioned that this is called adaptive label because this state is currently showing that it's filled. When it is not filled, our label text will be showing inside. So it's adaptive because it's adapting to the state of the input field. So now let's create this. So we're going to start off by writing our label text, full name, then make sure we adjust the size. Like I've been mentioning, we cannot use the same size and color for label text and input text. So now that we have our label text, let's write our input text. Adjust the width, the size, and the color. So now I'm going to frame this together, add auto layout, and add our padding around it. Then I'm going to add our stroke, edit the color, and also add our radius. Then I'm just going to extend this width to 343. Now that we have this, we want to put this full name on top. So to do that, let me tell you why we can't just put this. Just putting this on top like this, you will see the way this line is showing, and that's not how we want it to be. So we're going to frame this current selection and add fill at the back. We're also going to add auto layout and just give it a little padding so it has that breathing space around it. Then we can bring to front. I'm bringing this to the front because I did it first before this rectangle. So we can just decide to place it here and we see that it's good to go. But we don't just want to do that. We want it to like sit on it properly. And to do that, I'm going to select both of them together, add auto layout, and now select this and do absolute position. Then I'm going to adjust it to where I want the label text to stay. 16 here and here. So you can see that this is currently responsive. So now we have outline with adaptive label. So we already know how to create outline with top label. That's what we created in this section. So next up is create outline with contain label, and like I explained in the presentation, contain label meaning that the label text and the input text stays in the same container. I'm just going to write full name. Okay, the size it is where it ought to be. Then change this, adjust the size, the width, and the color. Then I'll select both of them together, add auto layout, adjust the spacing, frame the selection again, add auto layout, and then add padding around it. Then I'm just going to extend this to 343, add our stroke around it, then add our radius. Now I'll change the color. So this is how to create this. But I think this is currently looking too big. So let's adjust this spacing around this so we can have three. Then we can also just have this as 8. I think this our text here is looking too big. 14 is not currently working for this. So we can just edit this 14 to 12 so it can sit well. But that's how to create your outline with contain label. So the last one is outline with left or right label. And in the presentation, I explained why it is called left or right label. So I'm just going to quickly work on that. Adjust this to 16 and adjust the color. Then also adjust this to 14 and adjust the color. So I'm just going to put this here and do the way I've been doing container normally. Add auto layout, add padding, add stroke, change the color of the stroke, add radius, and extend to 343. Yeah. Just extend. Then we're going to select both of them together and align vertical centers. Put auto layout around and just adjust the spacing to your taste. So that is how to create outline with left and right label. I think that's all for now. So now let's see in a prototype what we have designed. So let me just put this text, see, create account. I'm just putting this so this design is not left plain. Yeah. So to create an account, we want to have this text. Okay, yeah, before we create an account, I want to just show you why we did why we have this whole component and variant. If you bring out one of these variants from your asset panel, you will see that from here, just from this variant, you can edit to anyone you want. You can edit to error state, you can edit to typing state, you can edit to fill state, you can edit to delete state. And you can also decide to add leading icon, or decide to just add trailing icon, or decide to add validation text. Okay, only this validation text is not turning on because I did not create a component with just validation text. So yeah, that's why we need to create this variant. So now I just want to quickly prototype this variant and say that when I over this, it should show this. So I'm just going to click on while overing, it should show this. Then when I click on this file is overing, I want to show typing state. Then after typing state, when I click on it, I want it to show field states that I've completed that. So yeah, so I'm just going to bring in this first one, yeah, place it in the middle, and also bring in our password. If you remember, I prototyped this password saying that when you click on this icon, it should show this, and when you click on this icon, it should show this. Okay, I'd like us to just add another one quickly, and I want it to show the inactive states. So I'm just going to quickly edit this to show inactive. Yeah. So when we click on this prototype, on this component, we want it to show this. Yeah. So I'm just doing a very fast prototype now. So now I'm going to bring in our password into this frame here. Yeah, let me just place that. So now let's go into our prototype to see how it looks. This is our prototype, and let's quickly test out the interaction. When we over this email address, is meant to show the C. We over around. That's how the prototype works. So when we click on it, means we want to start typing, and you will see that it's highlighted and it's different from this password. So now let's just click on it and it shows that it's filled. So you can see the different states the way I explained it. This state is showing field, and what is inside is currently input text. This state is showing inactive, and what is inside is called placeholder. So I didn't prototype over around this password. That's why it's not doing like this. So when we select the password, this is our password. And the icon, when we close the eye, it shows this start. And when we open the eye, it shows this. So that is how to design input field. I hope you learned one or two things in this video. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notifications to get more info around design. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.